Greetings, gamers, and welcome to the 63rd live stream from the Misfit Gamer Studios. Oh, no, not the 63rd. Let me try that once more. I had the wrong note here. Greetings, gamers, and welcome to the 65th live stream from the Misfit Gamer Studios. I am your host, Vortex, and this is D&D Discussions. On today's homebrew review, we have a weapon coming in from our German viewer, hoileppa. They are not on right now. I think it's like 3 o'clock in the morning to them, so they probably won't be able to see this unless they check it out on YouTube. But yeah, we will be looking at the Crusader Flag. I'm really interested in this. It's not terribly long, but I am hoping that it spawns a small conversation on the back end about an idea that Kage and I have been discussing, and then yeah, we'll probably end up cutting it a little bit short today, but we'll see how far we get with it. So let me go ahead. We are going to be switching to the new camera setup, so I hope you guys like this. What up, my dude? How you doing?
Oh, we are chilling, man. I'm very excited. It's gonna be a good time, man. I'm excited. I liked the conversation we had already gotten started about, what could potentially happen with this topic, and I'm very interested to see where it goes. Yeah,
me too. I'm hoping that we'll be able to cover all of that. Try not to do it too late today, but I do want to get at least some of that conversation going. But yeah, so if you guys haven't noticed, we have a slightly new camera setup that we're trying out. We kind of messed with it last week. I'm kind of just fixing it up a little bit here and there. This camera always seems... I took this camera off to do some video gaming this weekend, so I had to move it. But yeah, so let us know what you guys think in the comments or in our Discord. Speaking of which, I actually have those now. So if you want to join the Discord, submit items for homebrew review, give us topic ideas, or just chat with the community, you can do that. Link is in chat right now. And if you guys like what you guys see, if you like this homebrew review concept and you want to see our previous episodes, you can go to YouTube as well, and that link is in chat as well right now. So otherwise, I don't think we have any other updates. I think we can just jump right into this. This
sounds
item.
Pretty groovy, yeah.
All right. Let me go and boom, here we go. Oh, look at that. So beautiful. It's such a nice,
clean
new
transitions.
Camera. Nice new camera. Oh, wait a second.
You just love to see it.
Yeah, you do. You just love it. I need to figure out which one I need to move for this. That's right. I need to move that one.
Boop, boop.
Yeah, it's always a weird thing with this new arm. I'm still trying to figure out like the best transitions for each one. Baba Kiss, what is up?
Baba Kiss is in the house. What's happening?
Howdy yourself. We haven't even begun yet. So how do you guys think? Does that look well zoomed in on Twitch? Is that like visible to everybody? Should I do?
I can see it perfectly.
All right, perfect.
And I'm not even full screen yet.
Fantastic. All right. So here we are. So we have the Crusader Flag. It is a lance. It's a very rare weapon. And our author is hoileppa, our viewer from Germany, who typically catches us on in the morning, which is just absolutely fantastic that first thing in the morning they try to get some D&D content in, which I think is just absolutely awesome.
You just chill, man. You vibe out.
But we do not have an attunement for this item. So we have a Crusader Flag. I'm already getting... an idea in mind. I haven't read forward yet, but like immediately when you say something like Crusader Flag, or any kind of flag, really, I know that you had mentioned that in the transition you had chose to make it a lance because that's technically more or less what it is.
Well, so to be clear, in the description that hoileppa posted, it actually says that it's a weapon that's used as a lance. So
okay,
so it is clear that it is a lance.
Gotcha.
But it's also like a flag. So I'm assuming. So
basically it's a guidon. It's
yes.
almost like a spear.
Yes.
Spears, lance. Gotcha.
That kind of vibe.
Okay. Okay, gotcha. So I really like that. And then immediately when I think of those kind of things, not just I have two different mindsets. One, I have the historical mindset of those being used as weapons, good for catching the enemy's weapons, good for distraction, being able to blind an enemy. I mean, it's amazing what guidon fighters can actually do.
Yes.
And flag bearers were not nearly as useless as you think that they were.
Nobody gives them the love they deserve. It's crazy.
But then the other option that I go when I think of like magical aspects is when you have one where like, a flag, you plant it, and then you get some sort of area of effect, right? And that's like always the first thing that comes to my mind. So that's what I'm kind of
I feel like they do that in a lot of games too. There's like a lot of features that have those types of abilities.
Yeah.
When it comes to like posting flags or rallying their teams or whatever.
I even had one in one of my online games. We actually found basically just that. It was just a flag. Couldn't really be used as a weapon, but if you posted it, it was like a 10-foot area. Everyone got like a buff. I think +1 to their AC and +1 to their damage.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it was just something small,
Just a little.
but
little something,
it
something.
was still kind of nice because you just carried around and then just in the middle of battle you just
You get
plant
backed
it.
into a corner or something and just be like, come on, bro.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit tougher.
You could even throw it and then
Let's go, baby.
just stick it somewhere else and then just move that thing.
Very nice.
All right, so description. So this magic weapon grants a +1 to attack and damage rolls. Okay, not too bad so far, especially for a very rare. In addition, this lance deals an extra 1d6 radiant damage. Okay.
So on top of whatever the regular lance damage is, it does
Which I
an
think
extra.
it's already a 1d...
That's a good question.
No. A lance, I think, is a 1d4. But double check because I actually think it would probably be better to label this as a spear because typically a guidon wouldn't be lance. Because when I think of a lance, I'm thinking of something that it has a very, very long taper. So it's almost like the size of, same size of a spear, maybe a little bit thicker, but it has a very, very long taper. Whereas a spear would basically be a pole with with an affixed head or a carved
Let me
head.
see if I can look some up.
And every time I've ever, when I think of a guidon, like, military, right? It's always more of
exactly.
a spear. It's always more of like a flagpole with some sort of ornamental spearhead.
Yeah.
But when I think of
what you're
like a
talking about.
lance, it would be very interesting to see a flag on a lance. So I would take whichever one. I would suggest it probably should be a spear officially.
Mm-hmm.
I would also just suggest taking whichever one has more damage though, because you would want this
When
to
I
kind of
think
stand
of
out.
lance, I lightweight think of jousting.
That too, and that's why I think of the elongated.
Yeah, where
but-
it's like it's got a fat handle with a huge thing right around your hand,
and then
but
just
then a
constantly
really,
elongates.
Really,
Yeah, that's what I think. Or sometimes, and that's always what I'm thinking of when you think of a lance as a very elongated, like or
According to
taper off.
PHB, a lance has a 1d12 piercing damage and has reach.
So what I was thinking of is now that we're talking about, I think my mind went to javelin first.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
But yeah, no, lance should be that heavy of attack, but I think a spear would be better. I think this makes more sense to be utilized as a spear.
Yeah, there are few...
And again, this isn't hoileppa saying it was a lance. This is just what we did to, I guess, to format it this way. We needed to kind of officially name it something. So, I don't know, did he use the term lance or...
Let me check. I believe so.
Okay.
I'm looking right meow. Yeah, it says this +1 lance in their original post, in hoileppa's original post.
Yeah, I would definitely my first suggestion would be to turn this into a spear. What's the standard damage for like just a
Spear?
Yeah, I mean, because you could almost make this. You could as a DM and as a player, you could also, I don't like the term flavor. You could stylize this in a lot of different ways. It could be a halberd. It could
1d6 for a spear.
I see it. Yeah, 1d6 for a spear, but it could also be a halberd. It could be a glaive. Basically anything that's like 6-7 feet in as your handle, and anything that's tipped
With
and a
some
glaive
bladed or
glaive
whatever.
is tipped on the side, but then you could still attach a flag. Like you got to imagine,
The majority of it needs to be the pole aspect of it, and that
tip
way it
has
has
something.
the flag, something to...
No, that's not to say that there weren't lance guidons, lances that could have a flag draped, but then I would imagine that it is a Crusader, so it could also be intended for a mounted fighter. But I would immediately assume if it's a lance, it should be a mounted fighter. So yeah, that right there is going to be a talking point. We'll have to finish up with that. But yeah, is this meant for a mounted rider or a non-mounted? Because that will change how that should be.
Interesting.
Okay, so it gets a +1 and a 1d6. So it's either going to do a 1d6 or a 1d12 at base, depending on which weapon we decide.
Sure.
It'll do an extra 1d6 radiant damage, and it has a +1 to attack and damage. So that means it's going to do an extra 1d6 plus... Well, it's going to do its standard damage +1, then a 1d6 radiant. Because
Correct.
it's still going to get the +1
Yes.
from its normal +1. So that's interesting that it gets a +1 to attack and damage. So it should be a Crusader Flag +1. So it is a magical weapon.
Correct.
Okay. If this flag/lance, okay, so there it is. If this flag/lance is planted into the ground, it will make the territory in a 30-foot radius holy ground. Every wounded will be stabilized and get naturally healed 3 HP. Interesting. Okay.
So not only do they get stabilized, but they become conscious? Or do they, that would be my question, do they remain unconscious and just have 3 HP? Or do they actually, because when you get a nat 20 on one of your death saves, you not only stabilize, but you automatically come up with 1 HP. So is this kind of like that?
I immediately love the Holy Ground. I love the stabilized HP. I love being stabilized. I would almost want to go, because I don't know how people feel about this, because sometimes when you deal with good versus evil, deities and stuff, some people have a really unique, spin on life draining. But how about, what if it just stabilized you? This might be too complicated, but I would almost like to where it's like a 30-foot ground of holy ground, and any wounded are stabilized, including allies and enemies alike. So basically, anybody down stabilizes. I would even be back to 1 HP.
I like that.
Because a topic for another day, but no one ever talks about death saving throws for NPCs. Once they hit 0 HP, you assume they're dead, but players get to stand back up all the time. So I love the idea that this would affect anybody who's gone down, let's say, within the last 3 rounds. Because then you could say, 3 rounds, they may have failed all of theirs, right?
Right.
But anybody downed in the last 3 rounds goes back to 1 HP, stabilizes. I like the idea that they stay unconscious as a base. As a twist, what I would be interested in to see is this Holy Ground also does an initial 1d4 damage to any undead. And for every 1d4, for every damage dealt to an undead, it is dispersed or given to anyone stabilized by the field.
Interesting.
So kind of like it's a life swap, right? It's almost like the reverse of a life swap, where if you cast it, you not only stabilize everybody, but if there are undead, you take their life and give it to the people that are stabilized, and then they would pop up. So it's almost like very situational. It's kind of convoluted to think of it that way, but instead of just giving everyone a base HP, I even if you did give them base HP, still I believe they should be unconscious. I still think that should be a whole other round of them, or someone has to go wake them up. Like, I like the idea that they're not just instantly on their feet, but I do like the idea of stabilizing. Just bam, instantly stabilized.
I kind of liked, you mentioned it for a second, talking about depending on the character's alignment, or
Ezzy Haven, hello.
One of the things I was thinking about is what happens if, and this is my mindset, is like, I like the idea of stabilization for everybody, whether you're on my side or not. Right?
Yeah, I kind of love the indiscriminateness of it.
I think that whatever, because if this is supposed to be holy ground, I'm assuming there's some god associated with it, right? So I like anyone who is of the same alignment as that god, they're the ones who get HP. Nobody else would, because
like followers, maybe like other clerics and followers of that god,
perhaps,
because then that would actually give you a justification to convert your fellow party members.
Yes, to be like, hey man, if you guys want to get this extra HP, you want to get yourself back into the fight, come.
Or it stabilizes anybody within the field, but anybody wearing the holy symbol of the god.
Oh, there you go.
3 HP and comes
up. I like that.
So then it doesn't even have to be a follower. You can do the whole thing where if you provide them and just say, hey, wear this token of my god, you don't have to be a follower, but as long as you wear my token, I can help you in battle.
Now, here's an interesting question about that. And this might be a little bit of a side note. When it comes to stuff like that, I know that like pledging like fealties to like gods is like very specific, and you have to like, but could something like wearing a emblem of a god give them some modicum of power from you?
Like, so it's in a sense what you have to look at it. The best way that I like to look at it to basically answer your question, to the simplest answer is yes, they get some monicum of understanding. But put it this way. Better, instead of looking at it from the aspect of how much they benefit from it, in terms of like how much energy, how much power or whatever, look at it like a business and an influencer. I can give you a free product and you never buy my product. I never get your money specifically. But how much is your word and your representation of my product worth. And even if you never give me money today, if I give you that product, if you go around, right, in my sweater that you never paid for, and you're warm and comfortable, and then I tell you we have socks, you may buy my socks. So if you're walking around with that holy symbol and you're doing deeds and people see that you're doing deeds under my holy symbol. Now, if you're doing deeds that make me look bad, I have a problem. I'll send a paladin after you. But if you're doing deeds, like you're the part of this party, my cleric or my paladin's in that party, he gave you a token, not my holy symbol, but like a token of my representation of me and my duties. If you guys are doing things in my name that make me look good, that make other people want me, that's good. That's marketing. But on top of that, let's say you're wearing that and he does this, right? He does this, bow, you're rezzed. How cool do I look in your mind? You're like, wait a second, I'm not even your follower. All I had to do was wear this, and I'm getting red.
Your
like,
holy symbol
dude,
glows. You feel a warmth come over your body.
the whole point is
that would be
how
clean.
How important.
That would be clean.
When I say yes, is there some monicum? Yes, in the sense of a mechanic, even in High Point, there is a monicum of power. But it's much more than that. It's not about the direct power. I look at it from the point of view of how is the god how are they responding to you as a representative?
Like imagine when like a god like does a miracle or something in front of a bunch of non-believers. They're all like, "Oh my goodness." And in that instant, like there's some sort of well, I don't want to call it praise necessarily, but like adoration that goes towards, "Oh wow, that god did something good. That god use their power in some sort of, now if somebody doesn't like it, obviously it might go the opposite way, but a lot of those people are really, imagine seeing somebody rocking that holy symbol do some
exactly.
like, cool, like wow, they're repping that god. Okay,
well, remember that's why there's a delineation between
crazy.
A believer, a follower, and a cleric.
Yeah,
and a paladin, right? Is they're all people of the same mindset. It's just how deep is your devotion and how much of your input do you want, or how much of yourself do you want to input towards the thing, right?
I'm super here for it.
Hey, and Ventrology, nice to see you as well. You ever think that about ice cubes or just tame glaciers? Hell, man.
That's it's very interesting. There are all different kinds of ways to make ice cubes too.
There are more different types of ice than you can imagine.
Did you know that water is basically just lava?
We don't need to get into that right now.
Anyways.
But yeah, so back to this. I don't mind as a base. I don't know if the plus 3 HP makes sense as a base, especially for only a plus 1 holy weapon. I like the stabilization. I like the 30 feet. I think all of that's great. Giving people HP, though, does come with the implication that you're not just stabilizing them, but they're jumping they're jumping up, and it's more than just the 1 HP of a crit. Mm-hmm. So I would not mind seeing some sort of alteration, some sort
clarity,
of
just like
of either they have to have something extra in order to get the life gain and not just the stabilization, or again unholy. I still think this also does deserve, regardless of the healing of your party. I love the anybody down should stabilize. I do think this needs to do something to undead. I just it's a holy ground. I 100% think holy ground needs to do something against undead.
Is there anything just like standard in D&D that it says about holy ground? Because like I swear there's like a ritual.
I don't know in 5th edition. I do believe that in earlier editions they've talked about being able to make like sacred ground for like rituals. There is ground that you can make in order to like push away undead. And make them like not like the area, but I don't know beyond that if there's a ton of direct mechanics for holy ground. I think for the most part it's a storytelling mechanic, right? Most people would say that undead can't be around holy ground, things like that. You could have corrupted ground that would make it more evil, but I don't think that there's an official mechanic to say here's how you follow holy ground.
Interesting.
Which is why I just like that idea that you're specifically, if you're sitting, because again, I love to play with words. So when you're telling me it's holy ground, my mindset goes to it should be more than just beneficial to the good people. It should be detrimental to bad people. What's up?
So I just looked up holy ground in 5e, and I don't know if this is supposed to be an official resource, but apparently there's a 5th level spell called holy ground.
Okay.
It's an action. You cast it on yourself. I'm guessing just where you're standing.
Yeah.
Unless it moves with you.
I'm assuming it's just centered on self.
It's concentration up to 10 minutes. You need some holy water to do it. You invoke your powers, bless the ground the ground within 60 feet of you. So I'm guessing that's a 60-foot radius. That's huge.
Yeah.
Creatures slain in the affected area cannot be raised as undead by magic or with the abilities of monsters. That's interesting.
Yeah,
verbiage.
so I like that too. I wouldn't even mind just saying it casts holy ground at 30 feet. So it's a diminished version of this 5th level spell. Because this also says that what's also interesting, and the other reason why I think I don't like, because we haven't really mentioned it yet, the other reason why I think I don't like the plus 3 HP is it's upon throwing this into the ground at any time. So like literally I can just do that, pick it up, do that, pick it up, do that, pick it up, and just constantly make sure that no one ever dies in battle.
Right.
As long as I put it down, no one's dying within 30 feet of me.
Yeah.
And they're getting that 3 hit points back. The fact that this isn't charges, there's no refresh, it's just anytime it goes on the ground, I think that's why I would remove the HP as a standard. I don't think removing the stabilization, it makes it overpowered. I think if it's just anytime it's in the ground, anybody within 30 feet is stabilized and can't die, or, you know, they're mortally wounded. But you know what I mean? Like, basically stabilized in a livable condition. Mm-hmm. I like that. I like the idea that, again, it either hurts undead or it prevents undead. I'm totally down for that as well. I think that the HP should be earned more. Whether it's a holy symbol, a token of the god,
right,
a follower of the god.
I do really like that idea.
I just feel like it could do something more. But let's see here. We do have a couple sentences for the lore. So the lore. This flag was created by a temple. This flag is created by a temple if there is a call for a crusade against the forces of evil. For some reason, my mind wasn't accepting the way that sentence read for a second. The temple uses it as a sign of general authority over the forces of the temple. Outside of the temple forces, the ownership of this weapon alone can lead to problems with fanatic believers. I love that lore. That definitely makes sense. Again, it's a symbol of a crusade. Like, it's a symbol of a religious crusade. That I love that concept. I love it being a focal point for the story, or just a focal point for tension. Just the actions of using it and having it on your person can affect things around you without even actually using it. Just having it with you. It's raw symbol meaning something. I love that aspect. I would like to see that actually in game played out.
Yes. I do definitely feel like a little bits like this add life to a weapon that is, or an item that wouldn't normally have it. You know what I mean?
And this also makes me feel
interact with the world.
This 100, and besides, because the verbiage also doesn't state. This is the problem I have too. Is it doesn't state that it's allies only, but he's trying to focus it on against the forces of evil. Mm-hmm. So the fact that it doesn't do anything against undead to prevent undead, I definitely think it needs to just make a note of has the effects of the 5th level holy spell within 30 feet only, because it then diminishes the power. I like that, but it's still a divine level spell. I wouldn't even mind making it up to like a +2 or 3 if you wanted to give it the full 5th level spell. But again, I don't know how much I like the idea that it can just be placed at any time.
Yeah.
With that being said, if this is being created by a specific church, it isn't not a specific church in the setting, but any church can create this. Like
church
I
specifically
also
creates this
want to point this out that it is not a specific deity's item. This is a setting concept that the churches that may go to war, there is just a concept that they can create this item.
Yeah.
So it's not like only this church or only that god has this.
Interesting.
Just this idea that like maybe you have like 2 or 3 of these where at times of peace a certain item is created, at times of war a certain item, like, but the idea that this isn't that specific to any one area, that it's just a symbol of that church, I like. But that does call to, if it's going against evil, if it's created by a specific church, why is it just resing or stabilizing and healing anyone, not just allies? And
here's a thought. Go ahead.
Why isn't this attunement required for the creator of the church? Why isn't it somebody of the church? You know what I mean?
Here's what I would think. I'm thinking that And again, this will definitely be up to Hoileppa to clarify. I kind of get the feeling that this might be like the base version of it.
Oh no,
and
absolutely.
when every
Okay.
church makes one, they will have their own specific features. Like, so some churches might be against, and every church defines evil differently.
Gotcha.
So
okay, I see what you're saying.
So maybe a certain church, one of them will buff undead because they're a church of, maybe they're the church of the Raven Queen or something like that. She's all about the undead and all of that.
Okay,
mess.
I see what you're saying.
Others might go against undead. So this could be, and this is just a thought, but like,
So it's a foundational piece.
It's a foundational piece, and
So you'd want to
church gives it its own.
So you'd almost want to add
flavor.
like, description and then say add one or two additional actions or
Something like that.
So okay, I do like that. I think that it could be very much specified to each church. As a base item, I think that the only thing that I don't want to say it's lacking anything. It's actually really nice. It's short and to the point. I think it's continuity, right? It's the fact that it's not allies only, but it's made by a specific church against evil. There's nothing that it does against evil. It stabilizes and heals anyone within its presence. And it's unlimited uses. I'm not saying that these make it bad. It's just they're inconsistent with each other. If it's against evil, it should have some mention of either undead, alignment, or something about against the church, right? So I just feel like if it's against evil, that's very broad. It should have something to dictate what evil means. If it's not going to be required to be attuned, which is also weird, a church made this, but any Joe Schmo can find it and use it. That kind of is actually a cool plot point, actually. That's actually a cool plot point.
That's very interesting. Yeah.
So it doesn't need attunement, and
I will say I put attunement unknown, and that's only because in the original post attunement wasn't mentioned.
Okay.
So it's not like he said no attunement. It was just like.
So we could make the argument too. I think it could be an interesting plot point that because these are generic in the setting, that they would go to any church, like any church can make one. I could see why it wouldn't be attunement required, but I would definitely want to play with the effects then, because again, it's like if it's permanent, if you can just do this whenever, it has to be limited.
It feels to me like there's elements of, and I think when Hoileppa was here on Friday last week, he mentioned that it was like either their first item or an item that they hadn't spent, that they made up quickly for like a player or something like that. So there might be more stuff to it.
I got it. I know. Oh my God, I got it.
Uh-oh.
I know why. I know how you can make this so cool without attunement. So the party gets wind. It's one of those, the BBEG, or at least not the BBEG, but it's going to be a case of one of those like situations where you put them on a path or a campaign line or a quest line, whatever you want to call it, where it's like the good guy, or it's like the bad guy isn't a bad guy kind of situation, where like they have every reason they think that they're going after somebody wrong, and then it's like all messed up. So how you do that is like they think, like you have it build this up, right, where there's this town where there's just like some mysterious doctor showed up, and they have this institute there, and they've never had a death since they've ever had a patient, and they cure people and blah, blah. Like all of these things happen, right? And you're just like, it's just suspicious, right? But at first it's just like, okay, that's kind of cool. Like this side of the kingdom, random town, just all of a sudden started. But then it's like, they hear more lore about it where it's like, who survived what now? Like it's almost like, wait. Like, so no one's ever died there, period. Like no one died. Like they come in with mortal wounds and they don't die while they're like, so you start to get these weird things. And then maybe you get, so you throw in some other aspects where maybe they start to question, they start to look into like who runs the place. And maybe there's just holes in the stories. Maybe there's just like weird, we can't find this person's actual history where they said they were from, like things to make you think that there's nefarious business going on. And you get to all this point, you finally confront him, you've done all of this like sleuthing, you really think it's the BBEG. You think like, we're going to shut this down. And then you find out that it's just someone who really wanted to do good things, but they're incompetent. But in a ruin somewhere, some basic ruins, they found this from like an old worn down church, like maybe a forgotten, like
Maybe there was like a relic from an old crusade, or
but that's what I'm saying.
like destroyed.
But he found it and he was just like, what can I do with this? And he shoved it in the ground, and then like his dying friend didn't die. And he just slowly learned that he could hide this. And so he built the institution, and then you find out there's a back room that he has locked up and everything, and it's just planted permanently in the ground.
He just takes people
and
puts them
and
there.
you find out he has all of his like rooms, like his like the rooms that he helps people in. They're perfectly built in the room, exactly 30 feet around that center room. So it's like you find out this guy's actually just totally legitly a cool dude. Like he's just trying to help people. He just can't. He's like, he has low intelligence, low charisma. Maybe he like, when you deal with him, he seems sleazy. He seems like, man, he's gotta be evil. No, he found a way to make a little bit of money and do good in the world. But then you can also throw in the fact that like maybe that religion isn't actually dead, and this could be the revival of them. And maybe that's like a bit, so it's like that whole, again, the moral choices we talked about on the last episode, giving the players in the party moral choices where it's like, hey man, you found the item that will resurrect this whole religion, that will help this whole thing happening over here, but you're going to ruin this guy's career, his entire reputation, and you're going to ruin this entire town or this kingdom of their health. Like, obviously, again, like what we talked about with like the trolley problem, it's obvious which is the right answer. Because the wrong, and we talked about this, like, again, the idea of the original trolley problem. You do nothing and watch an entire religion go under, and hundreds of thousands of people die in a crusade that's failing. If you do nothing. Or you do the trolley problem, you pull the lever, you let the town suffer, but you take that item back and you fix all of those problems, right? That's the traditional trolley problem. It's the choice of do nothing or act, and which one you could give the players of, hey, you found the item you've been looking for, your choice whether to remove it and hurt this town, but you save a whole religion and turn the tide of a crusade.
Interesting.
I like this idea.
Interesting.
Like, but that's where the idea of removing the attunement could give that plot point of it could literally be lost, and you have to go figure out by word of mouth where these miracles happened. And then you just follow the miracles until you find the guy. But again, having that plot point of just like, why is this guy so skeezy? And then, no, it's just, he has low charisma, low intelligence, but he has super high wisdom. Basically, he learned he can profit from this, or at least utilize it. And he lives a comfortable life, but he's not doing anything wrong. He's very secretive because none of his staff know anything about him. Why? Because he doesn't want to tell anybody. Funny. It's not his health, right? He makes basically he makes fake elixirs. He just says he's like an alchemist, but he's not. It's just the lance.
It's just water and some other random crap.
It's just lemon water, and it's just like, no,
this one's gonna taste a little bitter.
But these are the ideas that I think would be really, really fun to do with something like this, right? Because it's not overpowered. Like this is like one of my favorite type of items to look at, because they're really fun for roleplay wise, because you pick this up, and if it's a true lance, let's talk about it as is. Let's think this is Crusader. So it's a paladin based, a knight, a paladin or a knight, it's a lance, you're on a horse, right? So this isn't something that you're just going to pick up and wield around. So even at 1d12, you're not really going to be that big of a threat, wielding this giant thing that you should be on a horse with. And then the biggest benefit is sticking it into the ground, removing it from combat, just being near it. And 30 feet, let's face it, isn't that big.
I mean, is it a 30-foot radius?
Yeah.
So 60 feet wide, that's not too bad.
30 feet isn't terrible, but when you're thinking about a battlefield...
That's your movement speed, though. Like, that's it.
Yeah, but
you
it's
can
like...
dash out of that.
But if you do dash out of it for any reason, you don't get any of its benefits. Like it's that whole thing of like, yeah, so there is all of that. So again, it's kind of like one of those things where it's straight, it's to the point. It doesn't give the player any real... Like no player is going to look at this and go, oh man, like I'm never going to get rid of this. But it gives you time to pause and go, that's really fucking useful. But who's going to hold on to it, right? So it's that perfect weapon of, it's not so good you never want to get rid of it, but it's also, it's not so bad that you're going to be like, forget it. You're going to be like, wait a minute. Wait, we have a cart. Can we just hold that on the cart, and whenever we get like ambushed, just throw it into the ground? Like there's so many unique ways. And that's what I mean by this is much more of a role play weapon or a plot point weapon than to me it is a min-maxing character build type weapon. I think that's what I like most about it is you can get more out of it through gameplay than you can just sheerly using it in combat.
That's very cool.
Do you know that from a Xenomorph's perspective, the movie becomes Die Hard?
Oh my gosh, that's funny.
Oh man, that I'm never gonna unsee that.
You can't unsee that.
I'm never gonna unsee that.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, Vixie's gonna be so mad. When you toast bread and get toast, where does the bread go? It just shrinks. It just gets super deep inside.
Goodness.
I'm trying to think. Yeah, I think where I'm getting my hold up. So coming back to the item, I think where I'm getting my hold up is just because it's indiscriminate, but it's made by a specific church for a purpose against evil. That's an inconsistency that I have a hard time with. The indiscriminacy of it. That's number one. Number two, it's infinitency. As is, the infinitency is just without an attunement, with the life gain, it's just unbalanced. It's not too OP. It just doesn't operate the way that a D&D item should, as is. And then the last part is more of a sub to both of those, but it's the health. If you removed the health, the infinitency would improve. If you kept the health but added attunement, the infinitency would improve. Right? The things that I have a problem with are basically that it's indiscriminate.
You know what's weird? I feel like
without
the way this item was created, it's almost as though there were just a couple of details that were left out. It just feels like it needs to have a couple of pieces that were like added in for specificity, and then it becomes the item that it always should have been.
It's not like I'm saying like here's a laundry list of all the things that need to be fixed. It's like all of these are just like almost there.
Right.
It's almost like you have the star and you have it resting on the star hole, but you just need to turn it to get them to perfectly line up. That's how I feel like we are. You got the right block, you got the right hole, but it's just tilted off.
And again, I totally feel that.
It's not like all three things have to be changed. It's not like I think that it needs attunement and it needs to be removed and it needs this. I think any one thing will help nail it in. If it requires attunement, then all of that makes sense. The fact that it's permanent, that it's infinite, and the fact that it gives health indiscriminately makes sense if it has attunement, because then you put the onus on the holder, right? You're saying, church, we've created this item to run our people. You have been chosen to attune to this and use its powers wisely. Anybody who picks it up, it's just a weapon, but you have been chosen to decide when holy ground needs to be used. That onus, meaning giving them the onus of you can use it unlimitedly and it's indiscriminate, that's a choice now that's tactical, right? It makes it feel better. No one's just going to pick it up and just stab it into the ground infinitely and do all of this. But if you don't do that, if you don't want the attunement, just either take away the health and then just indiscriminately stabilize everybody. I think that works perfect for an unattuned item. Or if it's still unattuned and you want the health, just don't make it indiscriminate. Just make it people of the faith, people representing the faith, people, make it allies. Just put the term ally in there. Like the fact that, again, it's just the fact that...
No, I totally get that.
It's like a two-legged chair. It just needs one more leg,
and then it can support itself.
And it doesn't matter which leg we're talking about, but as it stands, it's like I'm just not 100% sure it just flows as is, but it doesn't need a full rework. One tiny little thing, and I think it nails it. I think I think it's almost like maybe it's like a jumble of an idea. It's like, I want to do all of this, and it's like, it's all great, but you either got to cut something or nail one more thing down, right? It's like...
It's weird. It feels a little bit like a bonsai tree that just needs a couple more snips, and then it's like, look at it. It's perfection.
Yeah. So with that, it is going to get some marks down. I don't need something like this in High Point. Like, I mean, I don't specifically need this particular item in a High Point, but I will say that it is going to get some points for the ideas that it's spawning, because one thing I really think is lacking in D&D a lot, and I think we've talked about this right before stream, is like generalized AoE effects, not just like there's the AoE spells, but they're usually attack based. Like there's not as much focus on like passive AoE, things like this, where it's like, this would be cool. You know, you charge in on a horse, on a mount, you charge into the battle with this lance, then you put it down, get this effect, and then you pull out your real weapon.
And
like,
then you go to town.
There's not enough of that, right? So I do like that representation. I think it's close. I think it could be really, really good. I don't think it's unbalanced at all. I think it's a unique idea. I think it serves
very much so.
I think it serves
that
a
is
better
one of my
purpose.
favorite pieces of it. I love unique ideas that come from a place that you can use and take and twist and do all kinds of good stuff with.
And I really like that it's not trying to do too much. I like that it has a pretty solid lore. It's not complicated. It's not convoluted. It can be it's universal. I mean, this could be used in almost any setting.
And even with the lore, it can be used in almost any setting. That's what's cool about it, because it's just a crusader of anybody.
Yeah. I really do like it, though. Okay, so it's not really imbalanced. It just needs some perfections. I don't need it in high point. I would like to, I would like to see how, I wouldn't want to use it, but I would like to see how it gets used in a game. But it doesn't call to me to go for it. Because it also feels maybe slightly unfinished, because like you said, we didn't maybe get all of the key pieces of the idea. I think it might have to get knocked down to a 6 out of 10.
Okay.
I think it could be a 7 with any one of those little tiny things. Like, it could easily pop up to a 7 or even an 8 if whatever change was made made it fit perfect. I think it is just close. I mean, it definitely has very big potential to be an 8 out of 10. It's just as is. It's hard for me to, I would have to change it. It's not something that it's like, oh my God, I need that. That's so unique and I don't have anything like that in my realm. So that's the 2 points there. But it's also not just that I would have to change it, but it's like, even if I changed it, like any one of those ideas, it doesn't then fill a massive purpose. It still doesn't stand out as, oh, I need that. This definitely feels like in the right setting, this would be an ideal plot device, but it's not something that I would really go for. But again, make the right change the verbiage just slightly, and that might, I might be able to look at it differently and go, oh, I would use that now. It's just, it really depends on, because again, I could say a million ways what could make this a 10 out of 10, right? But that's not the point. It's not about me. The out of 10 high points is just the likelihood of me using it. But if you were interested in to know like how to get me interested, I could tell you, right? I could say, do this, and it would be an 8 out of 10. But I don't want you guys to do that. I don't want you guys to like shoot for a high point, a high point. Because,
right.
Like that's not the point, right? It's the goal is not for you guys to get 10 out of 10, because that would basically be just taking your ideas and using them in my realm. The idea is to just take our ideas and work with what you like out of them. So I would love to see if hoileppa changes this or makes any modifications and resubmits it. I think there's a very high chance it could make easily 8 out of 10. It's just that I would prefer the author, the creator, to make those choices and test their luck instead of me tell them how to get there. I want to know, because if they took our advice and said, hey, I'm going this direction instead, these are the ideas, and then me go, oh, now it's a 4. I'd much rather that happen, but them be happier with their idea based off what we said.
It's what they want to do with it, right?
Exactly. I don't want them to make an idea that I like. I want them to walk away with what we said with an idea they like even better. Like
right.
you mentioned, even
yes.
if we give them all of this stuff and they go, after listening to you guys, I 100% am not going to do any of that. If someone told me that after listening to me, it only like completely nailed down and confirmed that's what they want to do, great. If I ripped it apart and said nothing about it works, and you're like, after listening to you, I know 100% it does work.
It does exactly what I want it to do. Then
fucking great.
Then I helped you.
Quite literally, that is just as good to me as you saying I'm taking everything you said. Like both of those scenarios and everything in between. To me, it doesn't matter, right?
Even if something you said spawned them to go a completely different direction. They did A, you said B, and they went Z. And I bet you learned and you turned it into something that you liked, hopefully even better, you know? So I don't know. I'm definitely here for it too.
Yeah. So I think, 6 out of 10 has a chance to get to 8, but we'll see if it does get resubmitted. I think it's a great idea. I think that it can, I think it can improve, but I don't think it needs too much improvement. I just think it needs a tweak. And that's the big deal, right? It's not an improvement, it's a tweak.
Yes.
It just needs that one little thing to make it make more sense and make it make more consistent. So fantastic. So thank you, hoileppa. Sorry you weren't here live. Hopefully you're watching this on YouTube. If you do have anything, drop it in Discord or in YouTube chat or in the comments and let me know what you think. If we need to clarify anything, if you have anything that we got wrong, let us know. And if you do update this, if you do get something new and you want to resubmit, please do. I haven't really been talking about that a lot in the past, but it is something that I would be willing to do if we don't get inundated with just so much brand new stuff. I would not mind doing
going back through and
re-reviews of resubmittals as long as they've changed enough, right?
Right.
And that'll probably just go through like a vetting process of
when I transition it based on their new submission, I can just check it based on whatever we had and see what actually is different. But I'm here for it.
Yeah. I'm not sure what you mean, Bobakiss, about if I had to make a choice, would I? And then let me figure out how many items do we have right now? Because that's pretty much
good choice. I like it. I don't know what choice that was.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, he said if you had to make a choice, would you? And then I'm like, choice of what? And he said good choice, and I'm like, I don't know what I said. I think I answered the question before.
It's all things.
Before I figured it out. Let's see. So we just did this guy here. So you're done. All right. Looks like we have next week is Inventorology. Then we have Bobakiss's item, and then hopefully we'll be circling back to Inventorology after that.
Yes.
Because we'll have to get some ideas for him. So that's where we are with the coming weeks. So we will need more of y'all's submissions. Get those things submitted. I will drop the Discord link again in chat.
I know Cosmic's got one coming down the pipe. I'm excited for it.
Yeah, super excited for that. So hopefully we'll be able to get that. We might even break Adventurologies up a little bit. It just really depends on when we get to sit down and chat with him about whether it's like a group. Does he want us to talk about them all individually? Like, there's a big thing in how we're going to organize that, because this might be the only time we sit down, pre-review it,
right?
Categorize and just get an idea of, okay, here's what we're talking about. Here's how we're going to talk about these, because there's 12 of those. I'm not going to read every last thing, but if we could say, hey, these 3 are basically the same, we could lump those together. So, Inventorology, we'll either myself or Kage will reach out to you with some just clarifying if you haven't already reached out to him.
Not yet on this one.
Okay, but we have just some clarifying questions just to make sure that we understand better about what that big submittal that you did is, and then how best we can focus in on that. The goblin thing. Yeah. So you sent in 9.
Yes, there
goblins.
were you had shamans and a whole bunch of different goblin people.
Yeah. So the way we looked at that is, instead of being all individual submittals, we were assuming that that's a village or a group or a family, a clan, something.
It was all
that.
in one post too.
Yeah. So what we want to do with you is just get some clarifying questions, what the intent was of that, and then just kind of work with you on categorizing those together. Oh, it's a clan of goblins. Yeah. So we'll probably do that all in one. We just want to make sure that we understand how we're going to represent it best.
Yes. How we going to review it.
I don't think I can read,
every single one of the stat blocks.
Yeah. I can't do 9 in one sitting, because that would take us hours. But if I could say, hey, these 3, and then name off what's completely unique about them, but then if they're all together, that would be nice. So yeah, right. we'll get that going in a couple weeks as well, because that will just be that'll be a big one. I might just take off Tuesday for that.
There you go.
Just so we could just stay in all night. I think that's where we're going to end for today. Like I said, it's going to be a short one. I've got a busy week ahead of me, and I want to get sleep and get ahead of it, because it's going to be crazy. But you know what? We're gonna persevere. We're gonna keep doing this because
Facts.
I'm really happy that I've been sticking with this even on the days that it hasn't been as easy. But thank you guys so much for being there with us. It's been really nice to have you guys always in chat, to have you guys submitting stuff, being in the Discord. It has helped us out. I mean, I know we haven't been on here long to really we're not close to burnout. We're not close to anything else like that. It's just that doing things twice a week, trying to get everything consistent and trying to, be lively is not always easy when, life is just stressful and changes a
Right.
lot. But you guys make it a lot easier. And, 6 months in, we're still trying, 7, 8 months in now, but we're still trying, we're growing. You guys are a big part of that. And so, yeah, we really appreciate you guys so much. We're continuing to grow. I am currently looking into developing YouTube content, so look out for potential shorts or some test runs. I may be making a new channel. I'm not sure, but just so they don't get convoluted with the bulk channel, the live channel that we're doing now. But I am interested in trying to at least get some traction on that and dip my toes into video editing, although I know I'm probably going to hate it. It's an expense that, I have to spend the money in order to test those waters. And Adobe Premiere is expensive.
Yeah.
It's like $60. It's on sale right now
really?
till March for like $35 a month. But yeah, it's like normally like $60 a month. And I'm like,
See, that's what bothers me about Adobe. They do this. I want to be able to purchase it.
Yeah, it's all subscription based. But that's the problem. It's like if I'm not, if I'm not good, or if I'm not consistent, I don't want that to be a monthly expense where I'm not actually making, like,
yeah, exactly.
If I can't pump out at least a couple of videos or a couple shorts a week after like a month or two of trying, like if I can't at least get a basic clip the video, do some text over it, if I can't do that, then I'm not paying for it. Right. And I'll have to pay, but it's like, I'm working on that, guys. So hopefully if you guys have any ideas, definitely let us know. We do have the suggestions channel. So yeah, if you guys do start seeing stuff come out on YouTube and you guys have any ideas whatsoever to help us out, let us know. Again, I'll post both of the links into chat if you want to go check out the YouTube channel, or if you want to check out the Discord. And then, we will be back on Friday at 7:30 Pacific Standard Time for another D&D discussions. We'll do a deep dive. We have a couple topics that we're deciding over whether or not we want to talk some more about curses.
That's right.
I know one of today's topics that we didn't get to, kind of the backup topic that we wanted to put on hold, which will probably end up being Friday's topic. We'll be talking about background features. And more specifically was kind of based and a thought off of the Crusader Flag that we did today, which is basically this idea of adding the ability to have like either battle cries or the equivalent of like a battle cry.
Yeah.
So for someone with like a soldier background, being able to, like, let's say in battle, if you're in an area, like you can do a battle cry and you'll have like maybe a 10 to 30%, depending on where your zone is, to be able to call, let's say 1d6, locals or veterans to your area, to your battle. And then you have other things like with different backgrounds. If it's not combat based, it could be role play based. So if you have a certain background, you would have advantage on persuasion checks against certain people and things like that. Like adding more to the backgrounds and making them more feasible, because the background features outside of like toolkits that you get, and maybe having a +2 to a proficiency check or a stat check. Background features are kind of lame and they don't do a lot.
They are almost never used, and it's so frustrating.
And so this idea of being able to, have certain people that you can persuade, with advantage, or certain people that you can call to help you, right? Like, a fighter being able to, or a soldier being able to call people to battle, where someone with a specific rogue background, a different type of rogue background, maybe you could get people to, you could hire people to go do something, right? Like you could hire, well, instead of like bringing them into combat, like instead of making it always like, well, I'm going to bring in 3 fighters and I'm going to bring in 3, rogues, but maybe you can go to the local town, maybe with your background, you know how to find a local guild, and then you can hire them to get you an item that you don't want to role play out. Like if your DM says, hey, you guys got to go find this item.
Maybe there's like a % chance they'll succeed or something.
Yeah, we're just like, hey, can I go talk to the guild? Can I go find the local guild and use my background ability to have them go get that?
You mentioned
have them like, hey, we got to break into this place. I want to hire the guild. Can they go unlock the back door for me?
Or
like little things like that.
Like a heist or something like that. Imagine they, instead of like in combat where it's like, hey, we're here to literally just help you beat things until they're dead, like we were talking about the other day. Maybe we're trying to do a heist and you're here to distract the guards and you're here to go sneak behind and get the passcode and you're here to do these,
so they're not interacting with, they're not doing what you want, but what they're doing is like setting things up to where, as you almost like a game where it's like you're trying to set things up to where it's like, hey, when we come down this hallway, when you see us, I need you to go distract that guard. But like the DM can be rolling whether or not they're going to succeed. So then you have almost like a dynamic set of obstacles, whether or not the person that you hired is going to succeed or not, right? Because that would be really cool. Like you can get the plans for the building, you can know the guard like paths, you can buy, you could buy that stuff. And then if someone doesn't have their job, then you're going to notice that a guard's where they shouldn't be, or that's what I want to talk about is like enhancing. Maybe the title will be like enhancing background features.
That's cool.
I really think that will probably be Friday's topic, and then maybe the week following, we will check out more about curses, because I do want to talk more about curses and how I feel about them. Because while we've looked at some curses and just kind of briefly discussed them, I think that they're fair. I don't even know what the word I was looking for. I think they're vastly underutilized. I don't really think that you see them all that often. I think that they're typically used as big showpieces. And I think one of the things I'd like to see is a better slow burn on a lot of these curses, instead of it just being a wham, here's your good, here's your bad, deal with it. I would like to see like a slow burn. You know what I mean? Like
one you might not notice right away.
One you might not notice, or one that's effects seem trivial, but over time they get worse. Like maybe it's trivial at first, but maybe at first it could be a curse where it's like, hey, every time you fall below 10% damage or below 10 HP, some effect gets worse. Or maybe it's one of those things where it's like, hey, every day you're going to lose 1 foot of sight. So you won't notice that until all of a sudden it's 5 feet. You know what I mean? Like a player won't notice their character losing that kind of sight until it's a whole block.
I saw this video and they were talking about, it's not even a D&D video, but they're talking about random superpowers or like lame superpowers. And this one dude, he had a power that was just like minor inconvenience man or something like that. And it was just the dumbest thing. He's like, oh, that's the dumbest power.
I'm mad. I am so mad about this.
There's like a rock in his shoe over and over again. Oh, there's a rock in my shoe. That's dumb. Takes it out and he goes on talking. Oh, there's a rock in my shoe.
I am so mad because I saw this, and I'm so mad because they almost stole one of mine.
Oh yeah, one of my
impractical powers. I am so mad about this because one of my original impractical powers was you can levitate exactly 1 foot off the ground. That was it. That's all you can do is you can levitate exactly 1 foot up, but you can't fly.
It's basically what you could do with the Tensor's floating disc. Right?
Exactly. But they had one where it was like, I think in that commercial, the dude was up there and he's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I can float. That's it. I can float. I'm like, bitch, that's mine.
That's mine.
like one of my favorite ones. One of my very first impractical powers. 'Cause I think that one was like one of my first 10, like when I was very beginning, like coming up with this idea. But one of my other like top 10 that I liked early on was you can walk on water up to 1 foot deep.
Yep. It just makes you look like a freaking David Blaine or something like that.
Puddles aren't a problem. Like sitting next to the, like a lake isn't a problem, but just 1 foot, that's it.
Walking on the shoreline on the water.
Mm-hmm.
That's funny.
Yeah, I know. I did see that commercial and I'm mad about it because their floating one was that whole thing. That whole concept of stupid powers is like, I'm mad because I came up with impractical powers like I think 15 years ago. I never did anything with it. I'm so mad, but I'm glad the idea is out there. You know what I mean?
Right.
I have been secretly playing with how to incorporate impractical powers into D&D. It's just
it's hard. It is hard.
It's not as fun because there's so much else going on that takes people's focus. Like it's like when you do gag gifts or the gag items. It's the reason why I don't like to do gag items in D&D. It's because it's so lost on the focus of what else is happening, right? it's just one of those things where it's like you have to force it to be relevant. And I don't want that.
If you look at common magic items in D&D, there are some that are kind of my favorite. Like one of them is the Cloak of Billowing. I just love stupid, simple things like that. There's another one, Wand of Flowers. You can just make flowers pop out of the end of a wand, right? You know, or Wand of Smiles. You cast it on somebody and they have to smile. Like, it's just so stupid and crazy. But like, it's a great like jumping off point. And I was actually working on our resources very recently, and I came across one of them. And oh gosh, I just had it in my brain. Where did it go? It was. I think it was like weak magic items or something like that, and it's like a roll table, and it basically just puts together a couple of super basic ideas and creates a super weak magic item that you can give to like a player for just as like a treat or something, that a small gift that it makes them feel like they achieved something more than they would have otherwise.
I also like with items like that, one thing that I appreciate doing is not making magic scarce, but making the concept that, you know, magic items aren't common to the commoner. They are novel. They are unique. They are the upper echelon of people do magic and have magic items. So often at times we talked about these like weak magic items that either get forgotten or used after first level and then walk away. But why don't we ever look at it from the perspective of what does that magical item mean to a random NPC, right? Like, we talk about a magical item that may not mean anything to you, may not do anything. Maybe it's like a wand that, you know, creates like 1 cup of water. That's it. All it can do is like 1 cup of water, or like, you know, like a little thing of water. Like it's like almost like a squirt gun. But to a farmer, on a day that's not raining, during a drought, where he can just walk through his field,
water each one of his plants,
and just water his plants. How valuable is that when you're looking for information about the local town? You know, how beneficial is it?
So like if you found something like that and you like trade, that's an interesting.
You're
like,
gonna throw it away
alone.
You're throwing no. Think about this too.
That's
like
crazy.
Depending on the campaign you're dealing with. You know, depending on like, you know, a lot of times people will have to have a place to stay, and it's like you can role play it out or pay gold. But what if you just go to a local farmer and be like, hey man, you have a barn here. I see you have a kid. You give them like, you know, a little magic toy that basically like, you know, like one of those like little items that like self animates for a few seconds, and you make their kid laugh, and you're like, hey man, like, can we sleep in the barn tonight for free? Like, you made his kid laugh with a BS little thing that you're never going to use again. But it's those moments where I think we're lost on the lesser items that we give away, because all we look at it is, well, how much gold can I recoup from this? But it's like, who are you selling it to? The DMs don't think about that. And yeah, when it comes down to it, even the weak magical items are still magical. They still matter. And that's why I love when people play around with artificers more. Artificers being able to manipulate magic, being able to suck magic, like a high enough artificer being able to take magic out of something.
Tinkering with stuff.
It's like, those are when, I mean, I would love to see a player make like an artificer weapon that's a bunch of weak magical items, but logically, if you're like, well, if I have this magical item and I set it off and it does this, and then at the same time I set this other magical item off that's doing this, and then with those two going off, I do this, and then after that, like almost kind of like a Rube Goldberg, like if you have certain magical items that do certain things, and you can think about logically how those all affect each other, like imagine being able to make almost like a rail gun. You know, like a railgun with it, or a crossbow that doesn't have that you don't have to charge back, right? Because you have certain magical items that will basically cock it back for you for free. That's like, imagine that, an artificer weapon that you could basically have a semi-automatic crossbow, where you fire, but you don't have to worry about reloading. Like, it'll automatically reload for you, just by the magic tool, like tinkering, man, tinkering. That's what I'm getting at. Hoileppa, sorry, I did not say hi when you jumped in. I saw that Kage did. It is great to see you. Sorry that you missed your review. We did have a lot of fun with it.
A lot of fun. It was very cool.
It spurred off quite a good conversation. So if you are interested in hearing the full thing, you can check that out on YouTube. I don't know if you saw the link. I think you came in after the link was posted. I don't know if you can you see what's been posted in chat when you come in?
You can.
Cool. So yeah, the Discord, the link is there. If you want to go check out what everything we said, but kind of just basically a basic breakdown. It's a fantastic item, had a really good concept. We got a good conversation based off of it. You have the link. Awesome. The only thing that we were, the biggest like things that we were, I guess, commenting on for the most part is there's a little bit of an inconsistency in terms of the combination of abilities it has. And we were just commenting that it's not that all of them would need to be changed, but the exact way it's written doesn't quite fulfill what it's saying it would fulfill. But making any one small tweak would basically make it make perfect sense for us and basically like solidify it. So we did give it a 6 out of 10 right now, with the hope that it if you do end up working on it and resubmit it.
See the reply in the Discord.
Oh,
because I posted their score in Discord
okay,
for
cool.
and they replied. It was funny. It said I would have been happy with a 4 out of 10. I'll take more time than 5 minutes to work on it.
No, absolutely. I think as I was telling Kage and the audience, I think it has absolutely all the potential for it to be an 8 out of 10 for me, like in terms of how much I want to use it. It's just the only reason why it's not quite there yet is just as written. There's just a few things where as I'm going through its usage, it doesn't quite add up to what I think is an effective item. But again, any tiny little change, as you'll see in the video, and then it would just rocket it right up. So yeah, I'm very interested to see if you do make any changes and want to resubmit that. Problem is I don't want to make it more a straight and tactic weapon. Oh, a strategy and tactic weapon. Yeah. No, absolutely. We loved the concept of what you were doing with this. So I'm really hoping if you do, again, I don't want to like pressure you, but if you do rewatch the video, comment or at least, post in Discord, let us know what you think about our comments. And if you do like the comments, or even if you don't like the comments, but it leads you to just adjust it,
yeah,
please resubmit. We're always down for 2.0 versions. I think the rule set is basically as long as it's like justifiably changed, you know what I mean? Like this, as long as you like, hey, I've nailed it down, this is exactly what I'm gonna go with, that's a good enough change. But like if you change something from a D4 to a D6 damage, I'm not going to re-review it.
I mean,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, if you were to do something as simple as just add attunement, we would probably talk about it, and maybe the score adjustment, we wouldn't have to re-review like all the aspects.
Yeah, it wouldn't be necessarily its whole own episode. But yeah, but I mean, if you like were like, hey, I've changed some verbiage, I've changed a couple of the abilities and added some things, then that would be like justifiable for a re-review. And that goes for everybody too. We're kind of saying this just as a general, if you're interested in getting an item that we've already reviewed back up there, it would either have been known that it was in the works. Like if an item was given to us like, hey, this is my finished item, that's probably going to be the only time we do it. But if you're like, hey, I'm not 100% sure, then
maybe it's something they're already using in their games, like a lot of Cosmic's gear. He has those things set up in his world already.
Different effects for paladins and clerics. Yeah. And that's the other thing that we were talking about too, is the potential for the type of attunement and just really, what its purpose was. So yeah, no, absolutely. It was a cool concept. And it is going to kind of help us launch into Friday's topic, which is going to be, which is what we were talking about right when you came in. But Friday's topic is going to be basically enhancing background features and making backgrounds a little bit more tangible with effects that make the most sense for those players. And it kind of goes along the lines with what you were talking about with your weapon, because the idea that you put this thing down and it gets an AoE, we were mentioning that that's a very underutilized effect. I think that it is something that I love to see happen, is these like AoE things. I love the concept of like battle cries. So you have like a general or a very powerful like level 20 person on the battlefield, giving them some kind of an action, an ability that isn't a spell that anybody else can have, like giving them the ability to rally their troops, give their troops, say, an extra 2 AC, or even give anybody that's within earshot 10 temporary HP, right? Just the idea, it's that whole, like, you hear the general, you hear him still in battle, it reinvigorates you. And I feel like that's a missed mechanic that D&D doesn't have, and that's why I love items like the one that you had. This idea that you're, battlefield control. You're manipulating the aspect of the battlefield itself, and that's the kind of idea that we want to expand upon on Friday, is looking at how we can take things like a battle cry. How do you apply that? And everything is always based on class, and class gets too pedantic. And if you're going to do that, like what we've talked about before, you run into the fact of by the time you're done trying to nail it down to a class, you're basically creating a subclass. And that's not the whole point. These should be universal things that are tied to something that makes sense for that character, but are also unique, right? Like every general doesn't have the same battle cry and doesn't do the same thing for their team. But every general, you would assume, has the respect and the command of their forces. They would have some sort of battle cry that does some sort of effect, right? So that kind of a background, right? Being able to have, if you have a soldier background, being able to, call veterans or soldiers to battle for you. Or if you're a rogue with a certain type of background, like the professional background, you can talk people into doing things for you, or maybe you can get advantages on persuasion. Like, we'll come up with more ideas there and probably go through actually all of the backgrounds. Probably just sit there and go back.
Yeah, that'd be very cool.
Yeah, but that's your item kind of spawned that idea. So hopefully you can be there for that one. We will be back at Friday at 7:30 Pacific Standard Time for D&D discussions with the deep dive on enhancing background features. But hoileppa, thank you so much for being able to catch us at the end here. I think that is going to be all that we have, though. It was going to be a short episode today. Look out for more content on YouTube. We'll be back on Friday with another deep dive. Hopefully you guys can get on Discord and keep sending us those submissions because we are running out. So keep sending that stuff to us so we can get those reviewed.
Facts.
Hope you guys had a great weekend. I know it's going to be a rough week for me, so I hope you guys have a good weekend or a good week ahead of you and nothing too much. It's been fantastic. Thank you guys so much. Adventurology, hoileppa, Babakis, Cosmic, thank you guys so much for being in chat and keeping us company. That's going to be us for tonight, so we'll see you guys on Friday.
Deuces, my friends.